I want you to know who I am. Probably many of you have seen me in the streets or somewhere else. It's been 7 years since my parents have left London and came to Moscow. They were Englishmen. They were spying on Russians. After they were caught, we were forced to immigrate to Russia. My father bought a car and became a taxi driver. After a year, my parents were killed for the fact that they possessed a great amount of secret information. The Russians considered that they were a threat to the state. I didn't know the Russian language. Now I'm working as a taxi driver, just as my father. All my money I have been wasting on food and alcohol. When I don't drink, I usually have a headache. But I don't want to risk my life and drink and drive. That's why I use pills. One night, I had sex for the first time in my life. She was beautiful. But it wasn't just sex. I raped her. It happened at night, when I was driving my car and I was looking for a new client. On the roadside was a girl waiting for a taxi. I pulled over, and when she got in the car, I understood that she was completely drunk. She even had a headache from the excessive alcohol usage. I was familiar with headaches. I myself used strong pills against it. I kept them in the car. I was out of gas and I pulled over to refuel. When I left my car, she took my pills. About that, I only knew afterwards. When we arrived at her house, I turned around and saw that she was sleeping. I tried to wake her up, but she didn't want to wake up. I was thinking to myself, how could somebody get so drunk that they would lose their conscience? I wanted to take her to a hospital, but somehow I ended up bringing her home to my house. I laid her down on my bed, and in her bag I saw my pills. I understood now why she fell asleep. I gave her another pill and some water. I think in my situation you would have done the same. I took off her clothes and I felt that I became a different person. I understood that when she would wake up and realize what I've done to her, that she would definitely leave me. And that's why I gave her a pill every 6 hours. From that moment, everything in my life changed. I cleaned up my room, prepared food, I washed her. I would lie next to her for hours and then talk. I guess I fell in love with her. We were a great couple. She was living with me for over 2 months now. I will never forget that night when I lay next to her, as usual, and I would talk with her. Of course she didn't react to what I was saying. She was everything to me. I was living only for her. Then I returned to my former life patterns, and I started drinking. In that state, I again wanted sex, but I was so drunk that I fell asleep and forgot to give her the pills. She woke up and went to the kitchen, where she sat there for 4 hours, not understanding where she was. She was still recovering from the pills. When I woke up and saw that she was not next to me, I got scared and started looking for her. I found her in the kitchen and I thought my life was finished. I grabbed some pills in the hope that she would take them. The dose I gave was a lot more than usual. She took them, she fell asleep, and I brought her back to the bedroom where I put her on my bed. I fell asleep next to her. The next day she didn't wake up. I was guilty for her death. I didn't know what to do. That same night I laid next to her body for some hours. Then I brought her to a parking lot. I threw her out and left her in the ditch. Yes, I simply threw her out, but I'll never forget her. Of course you would judge me for it, but first think about your own sins before you judge me. And maybe someone here looks a bit like me. I'm a taxi driver. See you.